Welcome back to Film Snob HQ. The road to Avengers Doomsday continues, and we are now at the first movie of Phase 4 of the MCU, the first movie in the fifth era of Marvel films. If you remember back to 2021, we're smack bang in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, which for the Disney Plus shows was fine. It was all streaming anyway. But the first movie was actually meant to get released in 2020, and it got delayed about 4 different times. It had a similar fate to New Mutants, if you remember that as well, which we talked about in a few episodes ago. But because it was an MCU film, they tried so hard to get it into theaters, and ultimately they had to eventually just release it to streaming. I think some countries around the world got it theatrically. Here in Australia, we didn't. I remember paying my $20 or whatever it was on Disney Plus and purchasing it premium, because there was a period where Disney had to release all their theatrical films at a premium price because of the lockdowns. I am, of course, talking about Black Widow, which at the time was a film I think that was received with mixed reactions. And if you haven't watched it in a while, you might still feel that way. I remember really enjoying it. But I feel like as time goes on, the film gets better with age. The biggest flaw with this film is the timing of its release. And I don't mean COVID, I mean post-Endgame. It's crazy that one of the core 6 Avengers didn't get their solo film until after they died. She made her debut in Iron Man 2 in 2010, and it took 11 years for Black Widow to get her own solo film. Captain Marvel came before her. We really probably should have got Black Widow a lot earlier. Wanda, the Scarlet Witch got a show before Black Widow. So the flick takes place in between Civil War and Infinity War, and kind of tells us what Natasha Romanoff was up to in between that, while she was on the run from, due to breaking the Sokovia Accords. And she's kind of thrust on this kind of globe-trotting adventure, trying to stay under the radar, avoiding the wrath of Thunderbolt Ross, who is played again by William Hurt, I believe in his final appearance as the character in this flick. She's got some contacts from her old life, and she ends up crossing paths with her sister, her adopted sister, Yelena Belova, played by Florence Pugh, who is the star of this film. Don't get me wrong, Scarlett Johansson is fantastic. She's doing the good work she always does in these films. But this film serves mainly as an opportunity to set up new characters. And we're introduced to 2 of, I think, the best new Marvel characters post-Endgame. We get the new Black Widow, Yelena Belova, played by Florence Pugh, who is fantastic and crushes it in every appearance. Every time she's on screen in a film or a TV show, she is the best thing on screen. And the Red Guardian, played by David Harbour, who is also wonderful and plays a wonderful comic relief in this film. We've also got Rachel Weisz playing their mother, Milena, and we've got Ray Winstone playing Dreykov, the founder and kind of owner of the Red Room. This film also serves as a bit of a backstory to how the Black Widow became the Black Widow. We get to see the Red Room in a lot more detail. It's kind of hinted at in Age of Ultron, and I think they touch on the earlier Marvel films. But in this flick, they really kind of go into it. And it's almost like a spiritual sequel, or like a sister film to Captain America, the Winter Soldier. And I know some people will think that I'm giving this film too high praise. I'm not saying in terms of quality it's the same. It's, Winter Soldier is just on another level from all the other Marvel films. But it does have a lot of similar themes to it. You've got one of our main characters going back to their roots, believing that something they shut down in the past is still active and alive, and now trying to shut it down again. They're connecting with forgotten friends. The Taskmaster character, played by Olga Kurylenko, kind of mirrors the Bucky character in Winter Soldier. So there are a lot of parallels. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of Taskmaster, I know that's a villain that a lot of people have been frustrated with. I haven't read a lot of Taskmaster in the comics. I've seen him from time to time. I think that character, the way they do him in the comics, would be very hard to translate to the screen the way that people want. That being said, we're now living in a world where we're getting all sorts of craziness in the Marvel films, so maybe they just weren't ambitious enough with the character. But I like the version they've done. A super soldier who can mimic any kind of skill and task. We're still getting the essence of that character. It's just not as flamboyant, not as crazy. But I'm sure at some point, especially in a Secret Wars situation, we're probably going to get some version of Taskmaster. I mean, if you've seen that new Spider-Man trailer, which at the time I'm recording in March, like only a week after that trailer dropped, we're seeing all sorts of insanity now. So I'm sure we'll get a version of Taskmaster eventually. But I digress. I think it's a really good spy film. I think it's, the closest thing Marvel has to a James Bond film, because it has enough of the campiness and wackiness that you couldn't do in Captain America, the Winter Soldier. All the players are really fun, bring a really great energy to the film. Seeing them as children was really interesting as well. Seeing like the Romanovs as well, not the Romanovs, I should say, but like Natasha and Yelena as children in Ohio, and then moving back to Russia and being left by their parents to be kind of abducted by the Red Room. It's a really dark film. There's some really dark themes in here. There's some really kind of violent, brutal moments in here as well. Stuff like there's a scene where Natasha has to break her own nose, which is pretty rad. To be honest, it's a pretty rad scene. So I really dig it. I think it's mainly hurt by the timing of its release, both within the MCU and in terms of being in the pandemic. But it's a solid flick. It's a solid standalone flick. I don't think it gets enough love. So Black Widow's a big win for me. And so just some wonderful new characters in there as well. The post-credit sequence also sets up the Hawkeye TV show, which to me I think is the most underrated of the television shows. I really enjoyed Hawkeye, and I can't wait to go back and rewatch that one. But that is Black Widow. In terms of Doomsday, in terms of Secret Wars, I think we're definitely getting Red Guardian back. We're definitely getting Yelena back. I don't think there's any other characters that really would come back. We may get a variant of Natasha Romanoff. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a variant in there, given we're getting so many of the other characters who are presumed dead. And I imagine if they want to go wild with it, particularly in Secret Wars, we'll get a version of Taskmaster as well. Maybe the one that everyone's been hoping for. But I like the version here. I think it's totally serviceable for the film. That is Black Widow. Next up is one of the best origin stories of a superhero in the MCU. Definitely post Endgame, but I would say since maybe Spider-Man Homecoming, and that is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I love that film. I can't wait to talk about it. That's next.